Look, be honest for a second. It's the middle of the month. You got paid, what, maybe 10 days ago? You check your bank account, and it's already doing that thing where the number looks way smaller than it should. Rent's covered, food's mostly covered, subscriptions still charging you, and somehow, despite not buying anything crazy, you're sitting there thinking, where did my money actually go? Yeah, if that's you, this video is for you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Gen Z isn't broke because they're lazy. They're broke because the entire financial game changed and nobody explained the new rules. My name is Zach, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, behavior, and why smart people keep feeling broke. If you're someone who works hard, earns money, but still feels like you're constantly behind, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. And look, this isn't going to be one of those stop buying coffee videos. We're going deeper than that.
The lie everyone tells Gen Z. Here's the thing. It goes something like, just work hard, live below your means, save 20%, buy a house someday. Cool, except that advice was built for a completely different economic environment. Now you might be thinking, Zach, every generation thinks things are harder for them. Sure, but this is one of the rare times where the math actually backs it up. Let's talk about income, the first problem. Let's start with income. Adjusted for inflation, wages for young workers have barely moved in decades. Meanwhile, housing costs are up massively, education costs exploded, healthcare costs exploded, transportation costs rose, and basic existing as a human costs went up. Here's what most people don't realize. Your paycheck didn't fall behind because you failed. It fell behind because prices ran away faster than income. So when older generations say, I made it work on less, they're not lying. They're just forgetting one key detail. Less money used to buy more life.
The rent trap. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about rent. A common financial guideline says your housing should cost no more than 30% of your income. Let's do the math. Say you make $3,000 a month after taxes. 30% of that is $900. Now, show me where Gen Z is finding a safe, functional apartment for $900 in most cities. Exactly. So what happens instead? You're paying 40 to 50% of your income just to exist. And when half your money disappears before you even buy food, guess what? There is nothing left to optimize. No budgeting hack fixes that. Why just budget better is lazy advice. Look, budgeting matters. But budgeting only works when there's room to move. Here's an analogy. Imagine someone tells you to eat healthier, but you live in a food desert and only have access to junk food. Technically correct advice, practically useless. That's how budgeting feels when rent, insurance, student loans, and groceries eat your paycheck. Gen Z isn't bad at money. They're constrained. Student loans, the delayed explosion. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, student loans. Here's what most people don't realize. Student loans don't just reduce your income. They delay your entire financial timeline. Let's say you pay $350 a month in student loans. That's $4,200 a year, $42,000 over 10 years, and way more if you include interest. But the real cost? That money could have gone into investing, emergency savings, skill development, geographic mobility. Instead, it disappears into the past. And psychologically, it makes people feel like they're running on a treadmill that never speeds up. The psychology of I'll start later. Here's where psychology kicks in. When progress feels impossible, humans procrastinate. We say things like, I'll start saving when I make more. I'll invest once things stabilize. I'll get serious later. But here's the trap. Later never arrives on its own. So instead, money becomes something you react to, not something you control. That's not laziness, that's burnout. The subscription economy. Death by 1,000 cuts. Now, let's address the thing everyone loves to blame Gen Z for. Subscriptions. Look, are there too many subscriptions? Yes. But here's the difference. Past generations bought objects. Gen Z buys access. Music, software, education, entertainment, everything is rented now. And psychologically, subscriptions are dangerous because they feel small. They're invisible. They don't trigger pain the way big purchases do. $9.99 here, $14.99 there, $19.99 somewhere else. Suddenly, you're spending $200 a month without realizing it. This isn't stupidity. It's frictionless spending. Social media and the comparison tax. Now let's talk about something that didn't exist before. Social media. Here's what most people don't realize. Social media doesn't just show lifestyles, it normalizes them. So when you see friends traveling, influencers buying homes, people your age winning, your brain assumes this is normal. I should be able to afford this. Even when it's debt-funded, sponsored, or completely fake. That creates what I call the comparison tax. You don't just spend money, you spend money to not feel left behind. And that's expensive. Why Gen Z feels behind even when they're not. Here's the brutal part. Gen Z is actually more financially aware, more skeptical of debt, more cautious with big purchases. But awareness without power feels like failure. Knowing what to do, but not being able to do it yet, creates anxiety. And anxiety leads to one of two behaviors: extreme restriction or screw-it spending. Neither builds wealth. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Zach, are you just saying the system is broken? No, the system is different, and different systems require different strategies. So let's talk about what actually works. Step 1. Stop measuring yourself against old milestones. First thing, this is critical. Stop using outdated milestones. Buying a house at 25 is no longer the baseline. Being debt-free immediately is no longer realistic for everyone. Wealth today is built in phases, not checklists. Progress matters more than position. Step 2, build a micro-emergency fund. Before investing, before optimizing, before anything fancy, your first goal is $1,000 to $2,000 in cash. Not because it makes you rich, but because it gives you psychological breathing room. When emergencies stop becoming crises, everything changes. Step 3, automate one small win. Here's a simple rule. If you can't save 20%, save 2%. $50 a month invested is better than $0 perfectly planned. Automation removes emotion. Emotion is the enemy of consistency. Step 4, increase income strategically, not randomly. Here's where Gen Z actually has an advantage. Skills scale faster than loyalty. Focus on skills that compound, skills that travel, and skills that stack. One high-leverage skill beats 3 side hustles that burn you out. Step 5, design your life before you optimize it. Here's the big mindset shift. Don't ask, how do I afford the life I want? Ask, what life gives me the most freedom per dollar? That question changes everything. The truth nobody says out loud. Gen Z isn't poor because they're irresponsible. They're poor because they entered adulthood during high costs, high noise, high expectations. But here's the upside. They're also entering adulthood with more information, more flexibility, and more tools than any generation before them. The people who learn the new rules early, they win later. Final thoughts. Look, you're not behind. You're early, just in a harder game. Wealth isn't built in a year. It's built by surviving the early stages without quitting. If this video helped you reframe how you think about money, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and stick around,
because this channel isn't about guilt. It's about clarity, control,